Hello and welcome to another episode of Revolutions of Our Time, the podcast where we look at protests, revolutions, past and present, and try to tease out any information that might be useful to us today. My name is Adam, and with me, as always, from sunny San Diego, it is Sam. How are you doing today, Sam?
I'm doing well. It's that time of year where we don't feel special because it's sunny usually everywhere else as well.
Yeah, it's sunny here too. Well, today, Sam, do you know what we're going to be talking about? A very special election that's happening in the UK right now.
Well, the fascist and the bin kind of gave it away.
The fascist and the bin, indeed. For the uninitiated, we are talking about maybe the strangest by-election that has ever happened in British political history. It's in a town called Clacton, which is on the east coast of England, and it has made headlines around the world because of the two frontrunners of this campaign. Sam, would you, to the best of your knowledge, just give us a top-line overview of what is happening in Clacton?
Now, you'll have to fill both myself and I'm sure some of our American listeners in on the specifics. British elections are kind of weird to me in that the politicians in power themselves have the ability to call those elections, which has always seemed quite strange. But in Clacton, their MP or member of parliament, so the guy who's essentially the mix of their senator and House of Representatives congressman and sits in parliament to represent them, is a celebrity, far right. He's had a lust for power for like 20, 30 years, right? But Nigel Farage. And the reason he is the MP for Clacton is because, from what I understand, it was essentially an easy win for the far right. It's this sort of forgotten seaside town where the conditions are very poor and the population is very uneducated. And so Reform chose that as their sort of guinea pig, and he won. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's broadly correct. So Clacton, or Clacton-on-Sea, to give it its proper name, is a town that is in Essex in the east of England, and it is a very poor town. There are lots of towns in England that were in the sort of later part of the 19th century resort towns because the railways came in and people started to have, for the first time, the ability to travel for leisure. It was cheap enough that people could travel for leisure. And there were all of these towns that became like little resort towns in England. Then, in the later part of the 20th century, flights and package holidays, especially to Spain, became very cheap and very affordable for the average British person. And these little seaside towns started to dry up. People would rather go to Spain than to Clacton-on-Sea.
And it doesn't help that a train journey from like Manchester to Blackpool is more expensive than a flight to Malaga, right?
Yeah, exactly. Air travel is remarkably cheap and train travel is remarkably expensive in the UK. Really, really expensive. That's a whole episode in itself. We don't really have time to go into it right now. Privatization was really a disaster for the British rail industry. They actually teach this in economics courses of how not to privatize things. Clacton is one of the constituencies in the UK. There are 650 seats in the House of Commons in the UK. And as you say, it is kind of a combination of the House of Representatives and the Senate. In the UK, as in a lot of places around the world, you have two chambers of government. The lower house, the House of Commons, where laws are proposed. And then if those laws are accepted, they go through the House of Lords, which is unelected, but only has the ability to pass or reject legislation. They don't have the ability to propose legislation themselves. There are lots of issues with the House of Lords. In some ways, it's quite an anti-democratic institution, but that's not the focus of this episode. The point is that, yes, Clacton is an area that was likely going to vote in the Reform Party, the far-right party, and when it became clear that Reform was going to win in Clacton, Nigel Farage, who was the founder of the Reform Party, though is not currently its leader, although is its sort of de facto leader, stepped in and basically said that he was going to run there instead so that he could become a member of parliament. Nigel Farage is a far-right politician in the UK, and he is unquestionably the most successful British politician of the last 2-3 decades. He was a member of European Parliament for a long time and is the person most responsible for Brexit. More than anyone else. He was the big pusher of Brexit. So, yes, that is the situation in Clacton.
Now I'm sure you'll explain to myself and our listeners what a by-election is.
Yeah, so do you not have by-elections in the United States?
We might have another word, like a runoff. Well, actually, explain what it is, and I'll tell you if we have it.
Sure. So a by-election is if one of those members of parliament, for whatever reason, resigns their seat, there will be an election, but only in that seat. It's not a national election where you vote for all of the MPs in the country. It's just for that one constituency. They happen fairly regularly every few years. MPs resign from time to time for all sorts of reasons. They don't really have an effect on national politics so much, but they are often seen as a bit of a sort of plebiscite on how the national government is doing. You know, if the national government is seen to be doing well, then often it will be someone from that same party who is elected. And if they're seen to be not doing well, then it will often be the leader of the opposition or some other party that fills that seat. The most recent by-election before this was in Makerfield, which is an area of Manchester, where the MP for Makerfield stood aside so that the mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, could stand to be an MP because he was the only credible person who could replace Keir Starmer as Prime Minister.
A story for another day as well, but holy moly, that whole situation was when the only guy in your party that's credible enough to lead your party in the House of Commons isn't a member of Parliament. It says a lot about your party, right?
Yeah. So is this a runoff election? Is that what that's called?
No, I looked it up. So the runoff election is something different, but we have...
Okay.
I think we just call them special elections.
Okay.
Like when Obama won the presidency, someone had to still be a senator for Illinois.
Right.
When Zoran Mamdani won the mayor seat, someone had to run for his seat in the state assembly. So I don't know the timelines for those typically, but yeah, we have them. I think they're just called like special elections, or they might have a different name in different places.
Sure. So this is a by-election that's happening in Clacton at the moment. Nigel Farage, the face of the Reform Party, is widely treated as the leader of the opposition in the UK. Traditionally, the UK is similar to the US in that there have, for most of the 20th century and the beginning part of the 21st century, only been two big parties and a few smaller parties kind of filling in the gaps, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. After the general election in 2024, the Conservative Party was very soundly defeated, such that whilst they are now technically the second largest party and officially called Her Majesty or His Majesty's Opposition, that is the official title of the second largest party in the House of Commons, Reform, Nigel Farage's party, is often treated as the official opposition. They are polling higher than any other party in the UK. So they have been trending downwards recently. It is scary, for sure. As I say, they've been trending downwards.
To Americans that don't know, Reform essentially is as if the most extreme MAGA members of the Republican Party had their own party and didn't even pretend there was decorum.
Well,
Reform.
Kind of. This is... Well, actually, according to the latest poll, Labour has overtaken the UK, 28% to 25%. Labour has overtaken Reform UK, 28% to 25%.
So what policies would separate Reform from the Conservatives?
These days, less and less, because the Conservatives and Labour have all shifted to the right, but Reform takes a very hard line on immigration. They would like mass deportations. They would actually, just this week, Farage did a press conference where he said he wanted to use the Navy to police the English Channel and intercept small boats that are crossing the Channel, which has been made a political issue in the past few years. They want to end the NHS, the public healthcare system we have here, and introduce an insurance-based system, which some Conservatives might want, but would not admit to that openly. And actually, Farage himself has distanced himself from that statement now because it's extremely unpopular. They want to end net zero ambitions, which maybe the Conservatives are on now. I'm not really sure, but certainly wouldn't have been a few years ago. They would have at least paid lip service to it. What else? Various sort of things like like that.
So it's more the rhetoric and the crassness of what they say compared to the Conservatives.
Yeah. How brazen and open they are with their right-wing policies, basically. Oh, and they want to leave, although the Conservatives are for this now as well, but Reform has long since wanted to leave the European Convention of Human Rights.
Yikes.
Yeah, because it would make it easier to deal with migrants in a way that they see fit. They're an ascendant far-right party. But, like many ascendant far-right movements, they've been embroiled in a little bit of scandal, which is what has led to this by-election in the first place. Do you know anything about this scandal that hit Nigel Farage in the past couple of months?
I know he has taken a lot of money from somewhere shady, but I know that he's been doing that his whole career, so I don't exactly know why this is special.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's basically it. Nigel Farage, the allegation is, which isn't so much an allegation because he does admit to it, Farage says he doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. Before he became an MP, Nigel Farage received a gift of £5 million from a British crypto billionaire who lives in Thailand, a guy called Christopher Harborne. Now, that's not actually necessarily a problem in itself. It's not illegal per se, but all MPs, members of Parliament, are required to declare any financial gifts that they receive in the 12 months before becoming an MP, which Nigel Farage did not do. Now, Farage claims that he didn't have to declare it because it was, at the time, he wasn't in politics officially. He wasn't in any official political position. And that it was just a gift without any condition. Now, even if that's true, which, spoiler, it's not, it would still probably be against the Parliamentary Standards Office, right? And it has kind of been shown to be not true because it's actually been taken down and is hard to find now. But when Reform launched their manifesto after the last election, they had a suspiciously well-developed crypto policy. And that basically involved slashing the capital gains tax on cryptocurrencies to 10% from, I couldn't work out whether the capital gains on crypto is 18 or 24%. It depends on how it's categorized, but slashing it regardless down to 10%. So this guy, Christopher Harborne, would have made a lot of money. In addition to that, it then came to light afterwards that he had also not declared that he had been gifted the use of a 5-story mansion that is near to Buckingham Palace from a guy called George Cottrell, who is also known as Posh George. And
I feel like there's got to be a lot of Posh Georges in London.
There are a lot of Posh Georges, but Posh George is like properly posh. He like aristocracy posh.
Okay.
A lot of times when you hear, for our American listeners, when you hear of posh English people, their parents were doctors or whatever, and they lived in made money because they bought a house in London in 1970 for 50p and are now multimillionaires. But his father was called Mark Cottrell and went to school with Prince Andrew in Gordonstoun, which is a very posh school in Scotland. Prince Andrew, no longer a prince, of course, because he's a nonce. Mm-hmm. And his mother was the daughter of the 3rd Baron Manton. So, hey. Oh, and she used to be... Oh, his mother used to be the girlfriend of Charles III. Who knew? So he's a very posh boy, but George Cottrell is also a convicted fraudster and spent 8 months in prison for wire fraud in the United States because when he was in Las Vegas, he offered to launder some drug money for 2 guys who turned out to be undercover FBI agents.
I'm actually shocked that someone named Posh George in London with so many connections went to jail for anything like that.
Yeah, well, it was for a lot. It wasn't for very long, 8 months, when it could have been a much bigger charge.
It just means the golf course had a fence around it.
Yeah, yeah. He also wrote a book called How to Launder Money. It's genuinely true. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Posh George gave Nigel Farage the use of his house, which is near Buckingham Palace, and Farage didn't declare that either. So, an investigation was launched against Nigel Farage from an institution called the Parliamentary Standards Commission. And this basically means that they will investigate, and if they find that there was wrongdoing, they can suspend you as a member of Parliament. Now, they can't actually sack you per se, but if you are suspended for more than 10 working days, so 2 weeks, which he would be based on this charge, then it would trigger a by-election. So they would have to win their seat again. Mm-hmm. And Nigel Farage acknowledged that a standards investigation would probably find against him, although in the interest of balance, he claims that a lawyer told him it was fine before he took this money and didn't declare it. So, take from that what you will. So instead, what Farage decided to do was to resign and call his own by-election.
It's like, what would be like the playground equivalent of that? Taking your ball and going home, basically, or something like that.
Yeah, kind of. Or like running into the building so you don't get tagged.
Yeah. Or like it's letting them tag you because you're too slow and saying, oh, I let you do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to be it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joke's on you.
Why do you think he did this? Why do you think he called the by-election?
I think it delays the investigation, right? Doesn't it stop the investigation temporarily?
Yeah. So it absolutely does. When he resigned, it automatically pauses the investigation. Now, the investigation can continue if he wins, which he probably will. It can also continue if he doesn't win, but there's a few extra steps that you have to go through there. And if he is found guilty when not an MP, I think there's some fines. I'm not exactly sure of what the conditions for that are, but yeah, there's some consequences. But in addition to pausing the investigation, he basically wanted to control the narrative. Yeah. He immediately came out and said, This is an election of the people, and the people of Clacton can decide whether or not I'm guilty. Is sort of his shtick, and he wanted to beat all of the parties and show that he had this support and turn it into a sort of narrative win, even if he was found guilty. Mm-hmm. What happened next was maybe the sort of cleverest piece of political theatre that has ever happened in British politics. It showed a level of competence and reading the room that, frankly, I didn't know British political parties were capable of.
Neither did I.
Which is, all of the major parties, Labour, the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, these are the 4 parties that would have realistically stood against him in Clacton, all decided they were not going to. And for any American listeners, if you have Reform on the far right as MAGA Republicans, slightly less to the right than that, you have the Conservative Party. Then traditionally you'd have the Liberal Democrats, then the Labour Party, but the Labour Party has moved right, and then the Green Party are the furthest left of any of these, but they're not super left-wing, democratic socialists, basically. But they all decided they weren't going to run. They decided that they wouldn't stand a candidate against Farage. They decided it was a farce and that they were just going to ignore him, which left precisely one credible candidate standing against Nigel Farage in Clacton. A man, nay, an intergalactic lord called Count Binface. Sam, what do you know about Count Binface?
So, my introduction to British politics actually used a picture of this man from like the year prior or something when he ran against Boris for mayor of London. And essentially he's a character who, or as you said, a space alien who dresses kind of like Darth Vader, but with like American football shoulder pads and like a trash can on his head. And the reason he does this is because there's a certain rule that in British politics, everyone that is in the election gets to stand up on stage when they read the winners, right? So as a form of satire, this man pays the whatever it is, like £5,000 to enter these major elections, just so, you know, the Prime Minister of the UK has to stand next to this weirdo during his what's supposed to be their proudest moment, right?
That's basically it. Although, and we'll come to this later, it's not £5,000 that you have to pay. The barrier to entry to standing as a member of the parliament in the UK is extremely low. Like in the US, I think you need 10,000 signatures to get on the ballot. In Japan, you need to pay 3 million yen, which is about $18,000, I think. In the UK, you need 10 signatures and a deposit of £500.
Okay, 500, not 5,000 then.
Yeah. And if you get 5% of the vote, you get that £500 back. But £500 is not, very much money, really. So a lot of people will do this. And as you say, a lot of people will run as a piece of satire or on a single issue that they care very much about in order that they get this sort of airtime and can kind of get their issue across.
There'll be like a Fox, right? Like someone like a furry that's like environmentalist or something, right?
Exactly. So this happened with Andy Burnham during the Makerfield by-election. If you look at the photo of Andy Burnham becoming an MP, on his right is Count Binface, and on his left is a guy in a fox costume who was an environmentalist and protested hunting laws, basically. He wanted to end fox hunting, which has kind of ended in the UK, but can still exist in some ways and is quite brutal, obviously.
Adam, I think I've found the best advertising £500 can buy for this podcast.
Well,
pick your costume, buddy.
We're going to get into how it's been used for advertising in the history, but first, would you just read the Wikipedia description of Count Binface, and we'll put a picture of Count Binface up on our social media as well.
Count Binface is a, quote, intergalactic space warrior, end quote, in a black and gray uniform, with a long silver cape and a helmet shaped like a dustbin, with a glowing strip in place of eyes. He described himself as the leader of Recyclons from the planet Sigma 9 and claims to be over 5,900 years old. Binface named his second-in-command as General Waste. And the only link to another article is Dustbin.
I don't know. I guess that does lead to an article about a dustbin. I don't really know. Yeah, so that is Count Binface. Now, we're going to come back to Count Binface. Count Binface as a character, the man behind the bin as well. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the history of novelty candidates in the United Kingdom. Because Britain is a nation with many, many, many flaws. However, one thing that Britain does very well is humor. British people love a joke and really know what makes something funny a lot of the time as well. This is the nation, when it was put to a public vote a few years ago, voted to name a new royal research ship the RSS Boaty McBoatface. And having novelty candidates is no new thing either. It actually goes back decades to the 1960s. Have you ever heard of Screaming Lord Such.
I've heard my in-laws and other older people I know in the UK refer to this guy.
So, Screaming Lord Such was born David Such. He was born in London in 1940, and he started out his career as a musician. And he had a fairly promising career for a little bit. He made an album called Lord Such and Heavy Friends in 1970, which was produced by Jimmy Page and featured Jimmy Page, John Bonham, Jeff Beck, Keith Moon he worked with as well. Some huge names.
That might be one of the greatest production lineups of all time, actually, not unironically.
Absolutely. However, I believe in 1980, this album was voted by the British public as the worst album of all time. So he made this album, but in 1963, he stood as a candidate in the Stratford by-election as a candidate for the National Teenage Party, which no longer exists. So he would have been 23 at the time, but he really was emblematic of the emerging youth culture of the 1960s. They're very politically aware. But at the time, you had to be 21 to vote in the UK. So he stood with this platform whose goal was to lower the voting age to 18, which it was eventually in 1970, so not much longer after he stood.
So what year did he stand? Sorry.
63.
Okay.
So he stood in 63, didn't win, and then he stood against Harold Wilson, who was the Prime Minister, in 1966. And because David Such was a musician and was in this sort of creative space, he dressed like a sort of 60s rocker. He had a top hat, he had a lot of theatrics to him, he had a long coat, and this really started to get him a lot of attention. And he realized that he could kind of use this as a way to satirize the political situation in the UK, as a way to draw attention to various issues. And in 1982, he founded the official Monster Raving Loony Party.
Ah, I do know this name.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about the Monster Raving Loony Party, or just sort of heard the name?
Is it not Binface's party?
No. Binface is in the tradition of the Monster Raving Loony Party, but is not a member.
Okay. I've heard this come up a fair few times when I'm reading back on niche political history, but I don't. You'll have to remind me then about its relevance.
So the Monster Raving Loony Party is it's really a satirical party in a way.
It still exists, right?
It still exists. And indeed, in Clacton is fielding 3 candidates, which this might be the first time that a single party has fielded 3 candidates for 1 seat in British political history.
One for the books.
Yeah, could be. So, yeah, it's known for novelty candidates. In addition to Screaming Lord Such, it had Howling Lord Hope. Its manifesto was called the Manic Festo for the 2005 election. Yeah, they've had a few really quirky kind of people there. They're often there as like a protest vote rather than spoiling the ballot. You could vote for the Monster Raving Loony Party. Although some Monster Raving Loony Party policies have since become law.
Do tell.
For example, passports for pets was a Monster Raving Loony Party policy. 24-hour pub licensing. There were some pubs that were... Basically, pubs used to close in the afternoon, and this law was put into effect so that they could stay open all of the time. And the big one was commercial radio licenses. It used to be illegal to have a radio station in the UK that wasn't government run.
Wow.
There's a great movie actually called The Boat That Rocked, which is about pirate radio, which were guys who would go on boats and launch radio stations from boats.
Wasn't there a famous one that was like off the coast of Anglia that was on an old oil rig? That was like a permanent one.
Could be. I've not heard of it, if so, but yeah, that tracks. So this is the tradition of the Monster Raving Loony Party, and really this became a a mainstay of British politics. People always looked forward to this. Often it would just be in the most notable seats. So if a prime minister was standing, they would appear there, and they would garner attention in this way. And this is possible because the barrier to standing as an MP in the UK is so low. The £500 deposit was set in 1985 and has not been adjusted since. Before that, it was £150, which was set in 1918. But when the £150 limit was set, that equated to about £7,800, so about $9,000 in today's money. And in 1985, when this £500 limit was set, in today's money, that would be about £1,600, or I guess a little under $2,000, like $1,850 or something. And it's seen not only as a way of having novelty candidates, but as a way of sort of celebrating that British democracy is weird and that these are genuine political possibilities.
Right.
So this brings us to... and this is such a complicated history. I realize this is a very narrative-heavy episode, but it's sort of such a weird situation.
Look, I hear a lot... Look, people that have been paying attention to British politics right now have seen a lot of clips about pundits talking about this guy, but they've not gone into our detail, okay? So I appreciate it.
Well, this brings us to 1987. And in 1987... a novelty candidate stood called Lord Buckethead. And the reason that Lord Buckethead stood as a candidate, he wasn't a part of the Monster Raving Loony Party, but took on that tradition. And he stood because Lord Buckethead was a character in a movie which in most of the world was called Hyperspace, but in the UK was called Gremloids, and was a Star Wars parody. In the same vein as, like, Starship Troopers, I guess. But, like, it was just a parody of Star Wars. A low-budget Star Wars parody. And Lord Buckethead was a Darth Vader analog. But in those days, it was a straight-to-video movie. And so in order to sell this movie, you had to go around to a bunch of video stores and convince them to buy it, right? Mm-hmm. So the guys who were distributing this movie... were like, why don't you, it was a guy called Mike Lee, why don't you dress up as Lord Buckethead and stand against Margaret Thatcher? So, in Finchley, London.
I know who I'd vote for.
Yeah, well, quite.
Oh, she was from Finchley? Ew.
Yeah, I know.
Finchley's a cool place. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. But he promised to demolish Birmingham to make way for a spaceport. He received 131 votes at the time. Now, he stood again against John Major in 1992. John Major was the Prime Minister after Margaret Thatcher. And then the character went dormant until 2017, when John Harvey stood as Lord Buckethead against Theresa May. Do you know Theresa May?
I do. Fields of wheat and all that.
Sam, the answer to do you know Theresa May is no, but thanks for the tip. You've never heard that one before?
No.
Do you know Theresa May? No, but thanks for the tip. It's a line from an old British sitcom about someone else called May, but it's okay. But anyway. By the by, our older British listeners will love that line, and that's
my in-laws will love that, and maybe Pete.
Maybe Pete, yes. Hi to all three of you,
and any of Adam's relatives listening. If they do.
I don't think they do regularly, but that's fine. Lord Buckethead stood against Theresa May in Maidenhead in 2017. And because this guy, John Harvey, had discovered that Lord Buckethead had been used as this character. John Harvey was a TV writer. He wrote for The Thick of It, which was a British political comedy, and also Have I Got News for You, which was a long-running political panel show in the UK. And the way he got enough signatures to stand in Maidenhead was he went to the local cinema, and there was a coffee shop, a Costa Coffee, in the cinema, and he just walked around the tables and said, will you do me a favor and sign this? And he got enough signatures to stand as a member of parliament.
I mean, fair enough. I thought that's how all these other ones got signatures too.
Yeah, maybe. Him standing against Theresa May went viral. There's an amazing clip, and again, we'll have to put this on our socials, of the results being read out. And they read out the results of all the candidates, and the guy reading it goes, "Lord Buckethead," and Theresa May rolls her eyes.
Like Elmo's always hanging around these things too.
Elmo has started appearing in these, but that is a guy who is protesting that he can't see his kids anymore.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we'll leave that one aside. But this went viral, and as such, Mike Lee, who was the original creator of Lord Buckethead, asserted his claim over the character. The only other thing that Mike Lee is famous for is being the originator of Hotel Transylvania, but he really just came up with the concept and didn't work on it much beyond then. As a result, John Harvey created the character of Count Binface, who he now stands as instead of Lord Buckethead.
So it was after 2017, because
yeah,
when I was talking about like the mayor election with Boris, it must have just been some other wacky characters up there with him.
Yeah.
But to me, Binface has always been this ever-present character because he's kind of everywhere the last decade.
Yeah. So, first appearance as Lord Buckethead 2017, and then again in 2019, there was Lord Buckethead and Count Binface, and now he runs as Count Binface and is more famous than Lord Buckethead. He declared that he was standing against Nigel Farage in Clacton 12 minutes after Farage announced his resignation. So this was before all the other parties had said they weren't going to run. So presumably at the time, he thought he would just be one novelty candidate amongst all of these serious political parties. But no, it's just him and Nigel Farage. Now, it's not actually true that it is just Count Binface and Nigel Farage running in Clacton. In fact, there are 34 candidates on the ballot in Clacton. As I mentioned, 3 of those are members of the Monster Raving Loony Party. And this is actually the most candidates that have ever been on a bill for a single UK election. There has never been more candidates on the bill. The only other sort of mildly famous name on there is Lawrence Fox. I don't know if you've heard of Lawrence Fox.
I do not know Lawrence Fox.
He was an actor, like not a super famous actor, but was in like a few things around the UK, and then became known for being a massive anti-vaxxer during COVID.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But he's polling at like 2% right now as the third place candidate. And then, there are 34 mostly pretty wacky people standing in this election. But because Count Binface is the best known name going against Nigel Farage, this has put the political establishment in the UK, particularly the media, in a really weird position because they're having to invite Count Binface on all of these political talk shows in the UK.
He did a full episode of Now This Is Politics podcast, right?
He did. And the thing is, Alistair Campbell and Roy Stewart are serious political guys and didn't really know how to handle him. A lot of media establishments are talking to him as if he's a real political candidate.
Yeah, all of them are. They don't know how to handle satire at all.
Yeah, at least not at this level, because you can't talk to him as if he's a politician. You have to talk to him like you really need like an art critic to come on or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Definitely.
And as a result, Farage has called every reform campaigner to Clacton to campaign hard on behalf of Farage.
It's more than he had to work for the original one, right?
Oh, massively so. He kind of just sauntered into that one. But this one he's actually having to work. What do you think this is doing to Farage's image and his campaign and all of this stuff around him?
I mean, I think it's kind of brilliant in that, not for him, it's brilliant on Binface's part, and it's brilliant for the rest of the parties because it's a lose-lose, right? Like, even if Binface gets 5% or 10%, like, you know, you lost 10% to a bin, you know? Like, it's, and you're having to actually campaign and tell people, you need to vote for me and not Count Binface because of these reasons. Like, And that itself is already a loss. And I don't think his image, like, to you and I, he was never, ever a serious political candidate, Farage. Like, but he appeals to so many other people. And maybe this strips away the facade of the movement a little bit to where they actually have to put in effort to go against Binface, who I believe is also not really campaigning.
No, he's not, because the moment that Binface starts campaigning, the magic of what he's doing is lost. The whole point of Count Binface is that it is a joke, right? It is a satire of the establishment. He's actually, since running, added quite a bit to his pledges, his manifest, his Clacton 2026 manifesto.
Because he always tailors his campaigns to the local area, doesn't he?
He does.
But he does have his national issues. I know this about him. And in sort of when we were talking about Zoran Mamdani, right? If you can talk about the concrete policies without even naming the person, that's the sign of a good campaign. And I know Binface's policies, Adam. And a lot of people do.
Tell me some of them.
I know his national policies, a few of them.
Yeah.
Nationalize Adele. Not a bad idea, you know?
Yep.
And he wants to make a 99p flake, which is to our American audience, it's just like an ice cream cone, right, with a piece of chocolate in it. He's going to cap it at 99p, which so just under £1, because inflation has made it go above that.
Yeah, it's like £4.50 now. Yeah.
And probably the most relevant national issue he has is moving the hand dryer at the Crown and Treaty Inn, which is a pub in Uxbridge in the suburbs of London, to a, quote, more sensible location.
Yes.
He's since signed a treaty with the Crown and Treaty to promise that they will do this if he wins the election. And then when you see this hand dryer, you say, oh, that is a sensible request, actually. It's like right next to the urinal.
I'll give you a few other of his policies from the Clacton 2026 manifesto. One of the national ones is he pledges to build at least one affordable house.
I was forgetting that one, but that's a tried and true Binface one.
Absolutely, that's one of his long-standing national ones. He pledges to cut your taxes and raise everyone else's. He pledges to move Parliament to his new bin HQ in Wheelie while the Palace of Westminster is restored. But he also has some more pointed policies. He pledges not to accept any £5 million gifts from crypto billionaires, brackets, on Earth. He pledges that MPs who change party mid-parliament to be forced to paste a by-election, and the MPs who resign mid-parliament to be barred from the resulting by-election.
That's a good policy.
That's a good policy. That's a genuinely good policy. And one that's also a good policy that he mentions on his website was submitted by Jack, age 10, is that oil and gas companies should pay for solar panels for everyone.
Yeah.
Which is a genuinely very good policy.
Good on you, Jack.
Good on you, Jack. Count Binface is not campaigning because he can't. Because the moment he does, he stops being this satirical character and starts being a politician. And John Harvey does not want to be a politician. He did not expect this and has sort of been, you know, that quote, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. He has sort of had greatness thrust upon him. But as you say, it's lose-lose for Farage. Farage will either win, which is the most likely outcome, but have to have campaigned hard against a bin, or, and I pray every day, the people of Clacton have the opportunity to do the funniest imaginable thing, or Nigel Farage loses to a bin, thus ending his political career.
My question to you, Adam, is, the Binface himself cannot be out there. Why are you not with a clipboard right now going door to door in Clacton?
Clacton's a long way away, but there are people who are doing that, campaigning for Binface. And, you know, some progress has been made. A lot of journalists have descended on Clacton. Owen Jones did a really cool piece in Clacton. Clacton is genuinely a very right-wing place, and Nigel Farage does have a lot of support there. But they have the opportunity to do the funniest imaginable thing. And I genuinely believe if Binface defeats Farage in Clacton, this would be an event written about in the history of British politics more than COVID. It would be a more significant event in the history of British politics than COVID if this guy wins this election. So this is question. Can he win? What do you think, Sam?
I feel like Farage chose wisely in terms of where he placed his seat. He didn't choose, some... Because if he had chosen like a posh spot in like the Cotswolds, right? Like he may have won that, right? Like maybe.
Yeah.
But he chose wisely in that whenever I see clips of like these reporters in Clacton and they're interviewing people on the streets, like half of them didn't even know that there's an election about to happen where the rest of the country is watching closely. And most of them, when asked, are like, oh, well, I'm obviously just voting for Nigel. He's got our best interests. He's great. Well, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I just rolled my eyes like, come on, man. And so he did choose his constituency very well, I think.
He did.
And I think in most other spots, like, again, if this had been like the Cotswolds somewhere that was just like this very conservative area due to economics, I think Binface could easily win because I think those people probably would have been scorned by Farage by now and like a bit of a chuckle as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think Binface can win in Clacton, unfortunately, though I think he could win most other places in the UK.
Under the same circumstances, yes, he could win in other places in the UK. It's not looking likely that Binface will win in Clacton. The most recent poll, which was last week, puts Farage at about 73% of the vote and Binface at 20% of the vote.
Still ridiculous, though. And I do see from time to time in those same sort of clips that they'll be talking to someone who said, yeah, I haven't voted in 30 or 40 years and I'm voting for Binface because I'm just sick of being used, like Clacton being used.
Yeah. Now, I believe that at his current percentage of 73%, which is what he's polling at, that would be the most decisive parliamentary victory in UK history, I think. Certainly modern UK history. Of course, there are no serious candidates standing against him. And it would certainly be the highest vote share of a novelty candidate ever. It's wonderful watching Farage talk about this because he is having to direct resources against a bin. There are all these commentators asking, who's funding him? He's a bin. There's not funding him. He's a bin. That's the whole point. And so engaging with him seriously means that Count Binface has won the game that he's playing, and he has won in our hearts.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one reason people love him is how consistent he is and how committed to the bit he is.
Yeah.
In that I did see that he made a trip out there. I didn't see him in Clacton itself, but he did sort of a tourism push for one of these like old towers that's near the town. And apparently it was like 35 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
And he's out there in the bin
Yeah.
in the all black. But then if you I think that's what makes it a great parody is he's been interviewed so many times now, as you've said, and people can tell you his policies and he's consistent with his answers every time. And
he never breaks character.
Never, ever. And I think some of the best responses have been things that raise points back to Farage, where they said, have you ever been to Clacton? And he says, no, I thought that was a prerequisite for the job.
Yeah. For those who may not be aware, Nigel Farage has not spent very much time in Clacton. He's spent a lot more time in America. He's in America a lot. Farage really likes Trump. I don't know that Trump knows who Farage is, but Farage likes him, and he appears with him a lot. He's been on holiday a lot. Yeah, so he said that. He was in the street. He was approached by GB News, which is a right-wing British news show. And they were like, what are some of your policies? And he would I would make sure that news channels are obliged to follow Ofcom rules, and Ofcom is the broadcasting standards agency in the UK, which says that news shows have to be impartial, and GB News is very clearly not. So he always has a little dig to go, and he's always consistent, and he's always in character, and he always equipped Binface, not Farage. Yeah. It's been really fun watching Count Binface forced into this position where he has to run against Nigel Farage in the Clacton constituency.
And listeners, if you ever want to see Adam up there, we'll get the GoFundMe up for our entry fee, and the highest bidder gets to choose the costume.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll appear.
I'm actually shocked you haven't already for some like environmental reason or another.
Yeah, I suppose I could. I think that after this, I strongly suspect that the requirements to stand as an MP will be raised. I think that there have been so many constituents on the ballot, and Binface has been so high profile in this by-election that I suspect they will raise the deposit requirement or the signature requirement in order to get you to stand. We'll see. But maybe there'll be a by-election before then, which I can get involved with, or you could get involved with. I don't think you don't have to be a citizen.
Do you not? Okay.
No.
We'll see. We'll see.
I think you have to be a resident, but you don't have to be a citizen. Yeah.
You've got less barriers than me, but you know.
That's true. Yeah. Well, that's about all I've got on Count Binface. We're recording this on the 10th of August. The election is on the 13th. Do you have any final thoughts about Count Binface before we wrap up here, Sam?
If only the people of Clacton had a sense of humor. That's all I can say.
Do.
And I guess the thing to wrap up is like, okay, Farage wins, and then the investigation resumes. Then what?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. This is one of Count Binface's points. The investigation resumes against Farage, and he's found to have breached parliamentary standards. Then he will be suspended, and there will have to be another by-election, and that will likely be at the end of October. The by-election costs around £330,000 to put it on. So one of Binface's points is that, well, if you vote for me, I will save the taxpayer £330,000 because there won't have to be a second by-election.
Good point. Very good point. Point enough to probably vote for him if I was a resident of Clacton.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for this, Adam. This was a good one to jump back into the politics with, I will say.
Thank you for indulging me. I suppose I was going to leave us here, Sam, with a quote from Diane Abbott, who is a long-standing member of Parliament in the UK, but honestly, it wasn't that funny. So I'm going to leave you a quote, which perhaps you can read for us from Count Binface. Sam, thank you so much for potting with me. Thank you, dear listener, for listening. Look out for each other. Stay safe. Keep fighting the good fight. And if you're in Clacton, vote Binface. Sam, quoting the Recyclon Lord, take it away.
You do get the occasional novelty candidates. For example, Liberal Democrat. I don't know if you've heard of them. Or the Greens. And that's up to them if they want to dress up in silly suits or other assorted menagerie of costumes. That's part of the rich tapestry of democracy.